In this video, you'll discover how to pass the KPMG online assessment test. Hi, my name is Davis. I'm the founder of My Consulting Offer. We're a group of former recruiters, interviewers, and consultants who have helped over 800 people get their dream jobs, including at KPMG. Before we dive into the assessment and how to pass it, let's start with the basics of what the KPMG assessment is. The KPMG online assessment is an aptitude test that evaluates your potential to be a great fit for a job at KPMG. Like many other assessments from other consulting firms such as Deloitte, PwC, and McKinsey, you can do this remotely. In fact, KPMG gives you 5 days from the time they send it out to the time that you have to complete it and send it back. Unlike other assessments though, one advantage of the KPMG assessment is that there is no time limit, so you can actually do it on your own pace and not feel rushed. The KPMG online assessment has 2 assessment rounds and a potential third round depending on what role you're applying to. The assessment rounds are the following. First, you'll encounter the Transforming Small Business Online Assessment. Then you'll encounter the Delivering Outcomes Online Assessment. And finally, if you have it, you'll also have a third one called the Critical Thinker Test. I'll cover each of these assessments in this video, so by the end of it, you'll be an expert and know how to solve it. Let's start with the first one, which is the KPMG Transforming Small Business Online Assessment. So what exactly is the KPMG Transforming Small Businesses Online Assessment? In this assessment, you'll be put into scenarios reflecting potential challenges that you might encounter in your role at KPMG. Your assessment will revolve around your responses to these scenarios, given the information that's provided. Think of it as a situational judgment test where you can show KPMG how you would react in certain situations. So what exactly is the time frame for completing this? While the assessment comes with no strict time limit, KPMG does recommend allocating approximately 90 minutes for its completion, ideally in one interrupted seating. Again, you'll have 5 days to complete it from the time that you get it. So my advice here is if you know that you're going to be busy or tired from school or work on certain days, take the test when you're fresh, when you don't have anything that day, or the morning before you start doing anything with your day. That way, your focus is all on the test. The KPMG Transforming Small Business Online Assessment Test will test your situational judgment as well as your numerical proficiency. But what exactly does that mean? Let's go into each part. The KPMG Situational Judgment Test questions your ability to be able to assess situations and make sound decisions. These questions immerse you in a real-life work scenario, requiring you to select the most appropriate responses from a set of options. Here are my 3 tips for how you can pass the Situational Judgment Test. First, you want to familiarize yourself with KPMG's sought-after strengths, that is, what they look for in candidates, and their values. I'll actually link to both below in the description. You want to make sure that you know these values because they're going to come in handy when it comes to making decisions, because KPMG is looking for people who can live out the values in real life scenarios. Second, you want to make sure you understand the specifics of each scenario before making your decision. So I recommend at least reading the question twice and even a third time if something's confusing to you, because you want to make sure that you understand the situation and you didn't misread a word that could completely change the scenario or the answer. Third, you want to make sure you stay calm and focused with the information provided. Remember, there's no time limit, so don't feel rushed. And we're also going to go through a question together so you know exactly what you can expect from the KPMG Situational Judgment Test. So here's a question from the actual test itself. You have been appointed customer service manager at a major bank. Did management introduce you and you've learned that the last manager of this department was fired due to strong customer dissatisfaction with the service? The discipline of the department's employees has been reduced. However, no one knows what caused the problem. You understand that you were appointed to influence the situation. So that's the question. So here we have a couple things. We know that we are assigned a new manager role at a major bank, and it's up to us. Our success here, according to the bank, is to turn around the customer dissatisfaction to customer satisfaction. And we're in charge of making sure that this happens. And then we're provided the second part, which is what exactly should we do? Here we're given 4 options, and we're asked to pick one option that we think is the least effective and one that is the most effective. So this is the situational judgment part of the test. But before we go through each of the answers, let's talk about the KPMG values. So there's a couple of values that KPMG cares about. Again, you'll find a link to this below, but let's talk about it together. So this is from KPMG's website. This is what they care about. First is integrity. We do what is right. Second is excellence. We never stop learning and improving. Third is courage. We think and act boldly. Fourth is together. We respect each other and draw strengths from our differences. And finally, for better, which is we do what matters. So let's go through each of the answers and see how each of the values correspond. So what I like to do is that because you are only needing to pick one least effective and one most effective is to read each of them and then decide. So you don't need to decide before you read all of them. So answer A, the first thing to do is to talk with your employees and tell them that change are needed in the department. Then examine their approach to work and analyze the problems in the department until you determine the cause of the problems. All right, so let's talk through each of these. So is this integrity? Yep. You definitely are integrity because you talk to employees and you tell them exactly what is needed. So there's nothing that is hidden from them. Second, is it excellence? Yes, because, well, you're taking an opportunity and trying to improve it. Does it take courage to have this conversation? Yes. Are you doing it together? Somewhat, as in you're telling them, but then you're telling them what exactly you need to do. And for the better, you're doing what matters, which is this case, your goal of turning around customer satisfaction. So in this case, it hits most of the value, not quite together, but the rest of it. So this could be a really good answer. So let's go through the other ones, just make sure. For answer B, immediately make adjustments to the department that you think may improve customer satisfaction. Make it clear to your employees that you're going to take control of the situation. You reserve the right to take additional action if necessary. All right, so let's talk about this. Is this integrity? Yeah, neutral here. So you're not hiding anything, but at the same time, you're not sharing what you're doing, you're just doing it. Second, is it excellence? Well, it depends on the result of it, as in does it actually produce a result? Does it actually improve? We don't know yet. Is it courageous for you to stand up? Yes, it's quite courageous. Are you doing it together? Not quite, because, well, you're doing it for yourself and they're just taking the orders. Is it for the better? We're not quite sure yet, because it depends on the outcome. All right, so this one's probably not the most effective. It might be the least effective. We know that B is inferior to A, so based on the values. So we know that for B, it's not going to be ever most effective. It might be least effective or it might be neutral. But let's go through the other answers and find out. Answer C. You bring your team together and set a goal. The service department should be the best in a year. Ask what could have caused customer dissatisfaction and reduce discipline in the department. Correct the work of your employees only when you feel you have already know enough about the causes of the problem in the department. All right, so let's talk about each of these. Integrity, are you doing what's right? Yep. So in this case, you're being upfront about what's happening and that customer satisfaction should be improved. Then that customer satisfaction is important, but it's not being hit at the bar we want. Is it excellence? Yes, because you're trying to improve customer satisfaction. Is it courageous for you to have this talk with the team and set a goal? Yes. Are you doing it together? Yes, you're doing it and gathering information, and you're doing it for the better? Yes, because you realize that you're taking action, but making sure that those actions are correct. So far, we know that C is likely going to be a lot stronger than A because, well, it hits all the values here. So this is going to be a likely strong candidate for most effective, but let's read D just to be safe. D. The first thing to do is find out which of the employees is in breach of discipline and fire these people, thus solving two problems at once. Okay, so first off, integrity. Are you doing what's right? Well, if you're just firing them without telling them exactly what's happening, that's not very high integrity. Second, is it excellence? Maybe if you find the right people. Is it courageous? Well, yeah, you're firing people, so that definitely takes courage. Are you doing it together? No, you're just on your own. Is it for the better? In this case, you could argue that it is for the better because, well, you are making the customer service team better by firing the low performers. So maybe. Right, so now that we've read through and gone through all the values, what I like to do is figure out the easiest answer. So in this case, most effective is probably going to be the easiest. Based on going through the values here, it seems like C is going to be that answer because it has the most correlation with the values. So it has the most values aligned with KPMG. So I'm going to go ahead and mark C for most effective. And then now we have to do the least effective. So we know that it's not going to be A because A is sitting in the middle. A is not as good as C, but not as bad as B or D. So now we go ahead and have B and D. So which one is the least effective here? They're both pretty bad in certain respects, but at least for B, you're making adjustments and going through and learning if it's actually improving, versus D, you're just starting off to fire people without giving them a chance to explain their situation or to see if this is actually going to affect other situations, like, for example, hurting morale because people felt like the firing came out of nowhere. So I'm going to mark that D is the least effective, but there could be an argument that you could have marked B as well. So that's how I would reason through one of these judgment questions. Of course, you're going to get a bunch of these. And remember, you have unlimited time. So read through the question and the answers like we did here and evaluate them based on the values. And if you do this, you're going to make a lot better choices. Again, working at KPMG is not about working quickly. It's about working in the best way to serve the client. So you want to slow down there. So that covers the situational judgment part of the test. You'll also be tested on your numerical abilities. So what exactly does that mean? Simply put, the KPMG numerical reasoning test evaluates a candidate's ability to interpret and to analyze data. So it involves solving mathematical problems. But don't worry, nothing too complicated that you didn't already learn, and just making logical deductions from the information that you're provided. So let's go through an example together. So in this example here, on the left-hand side, you're given a chart that has a couple things. It has annual turnover, it has number of shops for local designers, and chain shops. And then on the right-hand side, you have the question. So the question here is, how many chain stores have turnovers between 45,001 euro and 75,000 euro. So you want to find on the left-hand side the tables that have both. So you notice here there are two rows that this fits under, which is this row here from 45,001 euro to 55,000. And then you'll notice the second box here has 55,001 euro to 75,000 euro. So it looks like we're going to have to combine these two boxes. And you notice that there's two columns. There's shops for local designers and chain shops. Because this question is asking for chain shops, you see two numbers. You see 542 and 648. And because 542 and 648 falls under 45,001 euros and 75,000 euros, you'll combine them and add them. And when you add them, it equals 1,190. So answer B is the correct answer. So that's how you do the KPMG numerical reasoning test. So I have 3 tips for you. So first is make sure you understand the instructions. So definitely read the questions and the data provided. No need to rush. Second is remember that you are allowed to have utensils like a pen, paper, calculator there because you can use them. So make sure you have them. And third, double check your answers, review for accuracy because so nothing's worse than, for example, you misplaced a decimal or you add an extra 0 and therefore your answer is off. So definitely double check your answers here because you do have unlimited time. So after you've completed both the situational judgment and numerical test, you've completed the Transforming Small Business Online assessment, and the next step will await you, which is the KPMG Delivering Outcomes assessment. Second assessment, known as the Delivering Outcomes, is tailored particularly to the business unit and area that you're applying to at KPMG. In this assessment, you'll be introduced to a fictional project related to your chosen service area. This project will be connected to one of the businesses you learned about in the previous assessment. This assessment includes the situational judgment questions, where you'll need to decide the best action, but you'll also need to write responses based on the provided answers and to record those video responses. For the video responses, you'll have 2 minutes to record each answer. So make sure that your responses truly showcase your abilities as a communicator, but also problem solver. So you definitely want to take time to make sure that you prepare those answers. So speak confidently and maintain eye contact with your webcam, rather than just relying on your notes. Remember, they're not just evaluating you on your thinking skills, but also, are you a good person for this role? Similar to the other assessments, there's no time limit, but I do recommend that you set out 1 hour to complete this and to do it in one go. And similar to before, KPMG will give you 5 days from the time they email you the assessment to the time where you have to complete it and to submit it. For this assessment, I do have a couple tips, especially when it comes to the video interview questions. So here are my 5 tips when it comes to recording your responses. First is to make sure that you have a suitable setting. You want to choose somewhere that's quiet, well lit, with a neutral background. So even if this is against a wall with your webcam with the lights on, make sure that you check to make sure that your setting is professional. Second, you want to make sure that you do a tech check. You want to make sure your internet, your camera, and your microphone are all in good working order. A quick way for you to test this is to download the app Loom. And if you can record a Loom in a clear voice, it means that your webcam, your microphone, and your internet are working. Third, dress professionally. Present yourself as if this was an in-person interview, even though it's on camera. Fourth, remember eye contact. Keep eye contact with the camera to make sure that the interviewer can connect with you and to make sure that they don't feel like you're nervous. And finally, confident communication. Speak clearly and confidently. And just make sure you're relaxed and you're addressing the camera. So pretend that the camera is a person. All right, and that covers the basics of the KPMG online assessment. As I mentioned earlier, in some cases, depending on which program or role you're applying to, KPMG may ask you to take a third assessment called the Critical Thinker Test as the final step in the online assessment phase. So what exactly is the KPMG Critical Thinker Test? While this test is online, there is one change from the previous assessment, which is that you're actually going to do this on a video call with a KPMG team member acting as your facilitator. And you'll likely have up to 10 other candidates taking the test with you. During the test, your camera should be on, but you'll want to stay muted. If you have any questions, you can message the facilitator using the chat box, and you'll have 30 minutes to complete this one. And unlike the first 2 assessments where you have unlimited time, this one you'll only be given 30 minutes to complete the assessment. Don't worry, I'll share some tips later. The Critical Thinker Test covers numerical reasoning questions in 2 sections, market trends and social media. And there are a total of 10 questions, giving you about 3 minutes per question. The data sources are the same as what you saw in the Transforming Small Business assessment, so it won't be completely new to you. However, the questions themselves will be different. Some will be multiple choice, while others will require you to type the answers. Here are my 2 tips. For anything that involves any calculations, check your math. And for anything that involves typing, check your spelling to make sure you didn't accidentally have a typo, since this is a common mistake that candidates make when they're rushing. And remember, there's a lot of other candidates taking this with you, so you want to make sure that you stand the best chance. And so any typo will go against you, so you definitely want to take your time and check for typos. And after you complete the Critical Thinker Test, you will now be one step closer to landing your offer. So now you know how to pass the KPMG online assessment, no matter if you're being tested on 2 of them or all 3. And now you're one step closer to your KPMG offer. If you are taking an online assessment like the KPMG online assessment, I'd love to help you even more. If you comment below the name of the firm and the test you're taking, I'll share additional free resources with you. For example, if you comment KPMG Online Assessment below, I'll send you additional free resources. And if you're 100% serious about becoming a consultant at KPMG or another firm, I'd love to help you even more. My team and I are former consulting recruiters and interviewers who help applicants land interviews, prepare for their assessments like the KPMG Online Assessment, and pass the interviews so they can land their consulting offer. To date, we have a 90% success rate. That is 9 out of 10 applicants who work with us land at least one offer, and we've helped over 800 people. So if you're serious about becoming a management consultant and want to learn how we can help you, click the link below to book a call with my team to find out more. Booking this call could put you one step closer to landing your offer at KPMG or another amazing consulting firm. But you don't have to take my word for it. Hear from ASAP on how he landed his KPMG offer. I'll see you in the next video.